but also because the way I'm doing my coaching, I have a specific framework of how you should be looking and thinking about a business, which is kind of imagining three circles. You've got business, brand, and team. So as a leadership team, you're trying to build these three things. Business meaning profitable, growing, cash flow, all of the sort of financial metrics of creating value and getting paid for it. The brand meaning, not just a Nike swoosh, but like the company, what does it stand for? What expectation, reputation, the whole piece around this corporation that we're creating, what does it stand for? What do people expect from it? What's the reputation we're trying to create through every single touch point? So you're building a business, you're building a brand and a team of people, happy high performers, individually, collectively. So right people in the right seats, everything around team. So as a leadership team is trying to build these three things of business, brand, and team, it happens through the intersection points of business and brand come together to create strategy. Business and team come together to create the execution, and the brand and the team come together to create the culture.
Welcome to Leave Average for Joe, everyone. This is your host, Briggs from Briggs and Co. Super excited to come on here for another wonderful episode recording. If you want to subscribe to the newsletter where I share 4 pretty quick and simple, super fun insights on philosophy, business, wellness/fitness, and then arts and entertainment, head over to briggsandco.ca and subscribe. I am also on the social media sites of them all. Briggs & Co. Dance Consulting, Last Shot Apparel, little business plug there. And then, of course, Leave Average for Joe on Instagram. It's an absolute honor and a gift to sit down with every single guest that I have on. I hope you are enjoying this show. If you are, please share it with a friend, with a family. It goes a long way. And that is how I continue to grow the show. Today's episode is with Ron Szekely. He's a widely respected business coach, marketing strategist, and former executive with over 2 decades of international leadership experience. Based in Montreal, Canada, he's known for his authentic, people-focused approach to leadership and for his talent in bridging the worlds of corporate growth and entrepreneurial spirit. Ron began his career at global giants like L'Oreal, later taking on senior roles at other household names in health and wellness, food and beverage, and advanced medical industries. His journey includes building startups, launching successful brands, and mentoring leadership teams to unlock their highest potential. Ron is also passionate about sports, especially hockey. What shapes his unique leadership philosophy, combining discipline, teamwork, and adaptability? Currently, he leads business operating systems, BOS360 workshops, coaches founders, and speaks widely about brand strategy, personal growth, and creating cultures where teams thrive. I took so much from this episode, some tools, some resources, some systems that I'm stoked to start to implement into my company and my personal life. Without further ado, Ron, welcome to the show. Ron, give us a little introduction into who you are and where you're from, and then listeners will get a better idea of where you are right now and why you're there.
Perfect. Ron Szekely is my name. And right now I'm working as a business coach. So I work primarily with the executive or the leadership teams of small and medium-sized business primarily, always founder-led, and help them with strategy, execution, and culture so that they can build a strong business, brand, and team. And at the beginning, I work with them kind of full day, once a month for a few months, and then it becomes a kind of quarterly mandate. So I have the privilege of being able to work with many, many different companies because it's not full time. It's really 1 day per quarter. So I have 20, 25 different clients that I'm able to work with. I've been doing that for about 6 years. Prior to that, I was working in businesses. So working in the leadership teams of a variety of different businesses. The early part of my career started with kind of the bigger multinational companies out there. So I did 17 years at L'Oreal, coming straight out of school. I started with them in their management training program. So year after year, I was always kind of kept out of my comfort zone and given a little bit of a different mandate every year, and always in marketing and innovation, but sort of grew with the company and had the opportunity to learn some really good business practices and in a steady, well-structured enterprise at a global scale. Entrepreneurial spirit, but definitely kind of corporate world. Loved it a lot. I also had some other corporate experience working at Keurig Dr. Pepper, so in the food and beverage space, as well as in the pharma space at Sanofi. And then sort of fell in love with more smaller founder-led companies where you could see a bigger impact. They can more easily go off the rails, and being able to help companies that were either struggling get back on track, or ones that were doing well kind of take it to the next level. And so that's it. So for the last 6 years now, working as a coach with a team of a few other coaches that we kind of all share the same system, and working with a variety of different businesses, helping them with
Did
their
you
day-to-day.
foresee this being your did you foresee yourself being a advisor, a business coach, or was this kind of something that fell in your lap?
I didn't. And so when I studied marketing at school, and then I studied design because I wanted to work in advertising. And
Mhm.
so I ended up right out of school being with L'Oreal for 17 years. And I was always thinking, oh, should I have gone into advertising? So I actually, when I left, it was to start an advertising agency. And so I was able to do that for a few years, discovered the joys and challenges of running my own shop, had some nice big clients, and things were going well. But I ended up selling it and going back into the corporate world after a few years, just because it was more all encompassing than I had ever imagined. And so
Can
it
I
was,
ask, this is me poking now,
yeah.
what specifically, if you remember back in those days when you did launch the advertising company, what is the thing that sticks out to you the most off top of head that created the most pain points? Like, what is it that, because there's so many, right? But what was it
There
for
are. And
you?
so, like, the typical pain points of any business that you don't anticipate is cash flow. And so, almost the more you succeed, the harder it is, because now you've got to pay a bigger payroll, and you're waiting for your clients to pay you while you're starting new projects. So, that's the typical one. But I would say the one that I wasn't expecting was a more emotional or psychological one, which was when I was at L'Oreal. I had a team. Underneath my team, they had a team, they had assistants, and then underneath them, they were managing the ad agencies. And so the agencies were kind of working on what seemed to be like a lot of fun, creative, strategic stuff. And it seemed like my dream, oh, I want to be doing that.
Right.
When I ended up in the agency, I ended up taking L'Oreal as a client, and the person briefing me would have been like the assistant of the product manager, of the group manager, of the director, of who would have been like the person that replaced me. And so I felt so disconnected from like the strategy. I felt like I was getting many layers down, dumped a request, and I felt like, wow, there's like this disconnect where I'm not at the table that I want to be able to have strategic discussions. So the kind of emotional thing was, I thought that I was going to be, doing all strategy, working at an agency, and I didn't have to worry about all the executional stuff, which was driving me crazy. But in the end, it ended up being more detached from the strategic thinking than I wish it was, just because of the way the briefing process worked. So that was something that I kind of worked to change afterwards, to make sure that we weren't playing kind of broken telephone and having the ad agency being briefed by um,
Right.
somebody that hadn't been in the company long enough. And
Right.
yeah.
Um, Take me back before this, before you got into L'Oreal, before even school, actually, before you decided to go to post-secondary. What were your extracurriculars growing up? Did you have any? Yeah, because I want to
I
know who Ron is first as a human.
Yeah, so there's an interesting one, because now that I'm doing business coaching, it reminds me a lot of something that I did when I was going to school. So when I was probably 12 until about 18, maybe more, maybe 11 into 19, I used to do magic shows for kids' birthday parties. So as a magician, and I find when I'm doing business coaching, it reminds me so much of those days where you kind of have almost a bag of tricks, and you have your client, and then you're going to see them again. So you have to make sure you have some new stuff to show them. And you got to make sure that you've got the room like mesmerized and keeping the energy. And so a lot of that sort of same feelings that I used to have, where you'd be animating a kid's birthday party, I feel like now I've got a leadership team, and I feel like I'm dusting off the old like back in the
Totally.
saddle. And
Reading
I
the
was
room.
very happy
Reading the
doing it.
room.
So yeah. And so I realize now I'm in my sweet spot, my comfort zone, because I did that growing up and I loved it. I used to do probably about 10 shows every week.
No
Um,
kidding.
oh, solidly booked every Saturday, every Sunday, about 4 or 5 shows, and back to back. And I had so much fun. Made a lot of
How
money
did you
back
get
then.
into magic? I have my brother got into magic when he was younger, but never pursued it. And I always saw that he was interested in it, but we never really I don't know why he got into it, where it came from. So I'm interested from your end of things. Like, was somebody a magician in your family?
No. And so I was at a birthday party as a kid, watched a magician come in, and then found out how much money he made. And I'm like, what? I could do that. And so it was as simple as like, really? That's all? And so like a few books, go to a magic shop. We didn't, there was no internet to learn tricks back then. It was really like books and learning from somebody else. And so it was practice a few things. And I realized quickly that it wasn't about the magic. Like the
Mhm.
tricks didn't really matter. Fooling a 5-year-old is not that hard.
Right.
What mattered is getting the kids to be quiet, sit, and to make the birthday person feel like they were the special person in the room,
Mm.
and to make all of the other kids wish they were the birthday person so that they're going to want to call me and have me do their show as well. So
Totally.
I realized it wasn't about, I didn't have to be the world's best magician, but I had to be useful
The
for the
skill of
parents who wanted the kids
interaction, the
quiet.
skill of people, the
Exactly.
skill, yeah. This, and
Making
that's, I
things
think so many
feel
things
magic.
boil down to that.
Yeah, and so it's quite interesting that now, now that I'm doing this, I realize I kind of come full circle and I'm doing something which seems much closer to that than anything else I've done in my career, and
What a
loving it.
full
And I'm,
circle.
it totally is. It totally is. And
Oh,
I couldn't be
that's
happier.
really neat. So then you kind of, I don't know if you folded in the towel because you've brought it back up in certain ways now, feeling that sort of on stage spotlights on you. You've got to come up with the show, if you will, when you're talking about business consulting or strategy, coaching, all of that stuff. Do you use mentors when you're building out those plans, or do you find that you're actually the mentor more now and you don't really have too much in terms of whether it be resources like books and podcasts and that,
Well, that's a
or
great
even a human?
question.
Like, yeah, I'm curious to know where you pull that
They
from.
go hand in hand, and more than ever, um, the amount of books that I read and podcasts that I listen to, and even people like mentors that I speak to, is so much more now than it ever was throughout my career. I mean, I was pretty well surrounded in the corporate world by bosses and different people that kind of sort of filled my brain. But now that I'm in a spot where I have to, I have to coach somebody, whether it's a one-on-one executive that I have to coach, or mostly it's leadership teams that I need to be able to kind of provide some. Usually I try not to tell them what to do, but share some examples and pull the right stuff out of them, but helping them get through challenging times and all of that. And for me, more than anything, wrap my head around the sort of the bigger, like, how does everything fit together, and finding kind of analogies and examples outside of the business world that I can connect to. More than ever, I need like external inspiration, and I can't get enough of. And luckily, there's more and more like podcasts and everything that I can listen to.
Is that
So
your
no,
source, would you
totally.
say?
More than anything, it's podcasts. I just
Yeah.
like the format. I find it I like listening to books more than I like reading books, but I have to listen to them on like 1.5 speed or something. But it's not the same as the podcast. I think it just, my brain aligns with the speed of the information, and it allows me to kind of think and digest and think and digest.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed at how many brilliant people there are that you can learn so much from in all fields. And so, the more I listen, the more I realize I don't know anything. Like, people know
Isn't
so
that
much.
true? I think that's the blessing of exposing yourself to knowledge is you start to feel dumber if you're doing it right. Like sort of thing. I find
Yeah.
that all the time when I'm reading
Yeah.
more, writing more, listening more. I'm like, I actually don't feel smarter. I feel a little smaller.
Right. And you just realize there's such a depth of knowledge in so many different fields that didn't even know existed. And then,
Yeah.
but the fun part for me is two things. One is just kind of being exposed to things outside of my natural area of expertise, and it helps me see things in my area of expertise better. But also because the way I'm doing my coaching, I have a specific framework of how you should be looking and thinking about a business, which is kind of imagining three circles. You've got business, brand, and team. So as a leadership team, you're trying to build these three things. Business meaning profitable, growing, cash flow, all of the sort of financial metrics of creating value and getting paid for it. The brand meaning, not just a Nike swoosh, but like the company, what does it stand for? What expectation, reputation, the whole piece around this corporation that we're creating, what does it stand for? What do people expect from it? What's the reputation we're trying to create through every single touch point? So you're building a business, you're building a brand, and a team of people, happy high performers, individually, collectively. So right people in the right seats, everything around team. So as a leadership team is trying to build these three things of business, brand, and team, it happens through the intersection points of business and brand come together to create strategy. Business and team come together to create the execution, and the brand and the team come together to create the culture. So business, brand, and team, strategy, execution, and culture. And so now everything that I listen to when it's related to business, I put it back into the framework and everything starts to make sense. I see how it all connects now. Whereas before, I would hear all these great ideas and I just I didn't know what to do with them. But now, because I kind of have a model that I can attach them to, it makes it much easier for me to see how it all connects, how they fit together. And when I'm working with leadership teams, I know at what point to introduce which thing. And it's a nice way for me to appreciate business now because I have a framework, let's say, to house it all together.
Okay, I have a question for you. So, because some of the listeners, they have businesses themselves or they're entrepreneurs and thinking about starting one. Now, if somebody were to book a consultation or a business coaching call, do you have a sort of pre-call form where you kind of understand, orientate yourself with the size of the company, the sort of stage that they're at in their journey, and then you go with you either you take on the client or you send it to somebody that you know because you have a specialty that you focus on? How does that look like if somebody were to, because me myself, I've been in this world for a little bit now that I fully do understand how it all works, but I know that a few handful of years ago, I would be like, business coaching, what does that look like? Is that for me?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need it? Who needs it? And how do you sort of assess how you approach the project or the client? I guess to simplify the question.
Right. So if it was consulting, and I have done some consulting in the past, there's definitely an advantage to specializing. So you can be an expert in a specific field because you're going to be helping them kind of come to the right answers and all of that stuff. So you're actually doing a bit more work as a consultant. And
Mm,
so people tend to specialize more there. As a coach, it's more facilitation. Well, it's sort of three things. It's teaching, facilitating, and then the coaching part is like the challenging and making sure that you're sharing best practices, let's say. And so that's a bit more transversal. It's a bit more, it actually helps me to see a variety of different industries because I can bring different ways of thinking, because if you just stuck in one industry, they sometimes all start to look like each other. And when you bring a different model to that industry, it helps them sort of see
mm,
something that they maybe weren't seeing before. So I deliberately try to have a variety of different industries. There are some coaches that would specialize in a specific field. We have one person that's in our team and he likes the entertainment industry. So everybody that he works with is kind of in that space, but that's kind of the exception. The rest, we're all very interested to learn about all different
yeah.
industries. That being said, for it to be a good fit for me and for what I do, they're usually, let's say, between $2 million and about $100 million of revenue. I have some that are bigger, but I find that they've already probably got a system in place and it's harder to move them. Whereas that other smaller size, there's more impact that I can have. And so I kind of specialize and focus on, let's say, that size. They need to be open to and not stuck in their ways. They need to be open. Usually I don't work with businesses that are totally struggling and falling apart and probably can't pay the bills, but more ones that are, they wish it was easier. They want to scale maybe. So they have challenges for sure, but not such fundamental challenges that it's like working with a broken startup. It's
Mm,
usually not the case. In terms of could every company benefit from it? I believe so. I've never met a company where I would say there's no use for one because you have the unique privilege of you're able to say whatever you want. There's no politics, you put it all on the table, and then you're able to help facilitate constructive, healthy discussions. And you break a little bit some of the bad habits and ruts that leadership teams can get into where they stop challenging each other because they know that's going to result in a fight, or they know the person's going to want this, so they just take the easy answer, or they've just done something the same way all the time, so they do it over and over again. As a coach, you come in and you're able to bring this fresh perspective. Number one. Number two is you get a lot done. I move them through a ton of stuff very fast because I've done it a million times. I know how to get everything done very fast. So there are days that they're going to take the whole leadership team offsite for a full day to work on the business. It's got to be productive. They're out of the business for a day, so they've got to get a lot done, and I can push a lot to get done. And then the privilege of working with a lot of different companies, I'm able to know when they're not doing the right thing, like when they're not specifically to their plan, but when the process that they're following to come to the answer is not right. Let's say they're setting core values and they come up with ones that are like super generic and not true to themselves. Like I'll be like, okay, that's you're pretending to come up with something. So I'm able to call out when the things are not being done based on best practices, and I kind of know where to challenge and can move them along. So they get way more value out of the day with a coach, by far pays for itself in terms of like increased sales, increased profitability. They just have to have their brain in the right space to say, yeah, we need somebody externally to come in, which, every athlete has a coach. You wouldn't think of an Olympian or a professional athlete, somebody trying to make money at something in sports without having a coach.
It's funny because
and it's kind of the same.
I want to ask you a bit of a specific question here, because I know that there's many people that I've met with that know about coaching, are aware of it, but go, that's not for me. Like, that's not something that my business needs right now. It's not something that I need to put money towards right now. Da 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 da. Do you,
Right.
I guess, for those folks, and maybe it's a like service based, I don't know, could be something where sales are actually quite successful, but the culture within the company is not great, so they struggle with hiring. Or, yeah, let's take that as an example.
Yeah.
Do you have something to say to that topic and how to illustrate it in a way where if X was solved, as in if you were able to build a better company culture through business coaching, then this is the Y result that you would see? Or, you know what I mean? If you can speak on that, I think that that would be valuable information for some people to hear,
Mhm.
because this is a funny thought, and I think it's worth mentioning the fact that those that think about business coaching in a company, I would argue, are ones, I don't want to say that don't need it, but they're already on the right track because they've had the thought about, oh, I can identify a crisis here or a situation. Let's continue to grow by hiring a business coach. Like, that is somebody that is um, has the vision clear in their mind and wants to succeed. And you know what? Maybe, I guess the argument would be they were told by a third party that they should get a business coach, and that's what opened their eyes up to it. But I guess my question is for those that just totally disregard the concept because they think that it's not going to be worth their while.
I mean, there are people kind of, they think they know it all, or they actually don't want somebody to tell them that they don't know it all in front of their
Yeah.
colleagues. So there are, sometimes it's that, but most of the time they don't realize like that it's a thing. They've never experienced the difference of having a coach come in the room and go, okay, like that's how this is going to work. I'm not coming in there to replace anybody in the seat. I'm there to like pull the best out of the team dynamic. There's also some coaches that are kind of winging it, and so there's probably some that are giving other coaches a bad rap because I mean, I'm lucky. I've worked over 30 years with some very big companies, so when I'm comfortable in front of a business group. But some other people, they've had one business, they sell their business, and they're like, now what do I do? Okay, I'll become a coach. And it's like, well, you've only done one thing and you did it like kind of your own way. It's still probably better than nothing, but I'm lucky that I've been able to bring like different organizations expertise together as well as a methodology. And so I'm confident that they're going to get great value, so much that I tell them they don't have to pay me nothing until the session is over and they're 100% satisfied. If they're not, they pay me zero. Like there's no upfront commitment. There's no checks written before. It's like, book me, we're going to do our day. And at the end, you'll want to book me for the next day. And it's always worked. I've never had anybody say, oh, that wasn't exactly what I expected. Always people are happy. So I don't know if that answers your question about why people may not, but it's not, if you haven't experienced one, you don't know what it is. And that
I
probably
think
the
that's
same
why
is
I
true.
asked the
Of course,
question, because I've experienced one before, and it was brought to my attention from another entrepreneur that has grown her company successfully, and I was asking her how she did it, the journey to do so, and she had mentioned a business coach, and that was the first time I heard of it. But it isn't something that I know not a lot of people know of, or that know the effects of it. So
But
that was kind
you
of
were
that, and
right
I do
about,
appreciate.
ironically, the companies that are already quite successful are also the ones that are open to have like there's a certain profile of people saying, I know that external people can help me get further than I can get on my own. And the people that say, no, I've got this, and kind of like keep their head down and don't like listen, they're also the ones that run into trouble. So it's kind of like, ironically, the ones that need it most are probably the ones that are not realizing that they could benefit. That
Yeah.
being said, if they don't have the right mindset, it won't work, right? Like you have to be like, okay, no, I'm open here, and
Yeah.
not
And that's
everybody,
the thing. And
not
I
everybody
imagine that
is.
you've seen and experienced that before, like trying to wrap heads around new mindsets, new thoughts, new approaches to business models and all of that stuff. So I tip my hat off to you for the work that you do, because each client sounds like it's very different. So that's a very good skill to have, to be able to, shape shift and adapt. So I want to transition because I like to know, you mentioned methodology. You have a design background. Do you
Mhm.
feel like you ever experience like that creative burnout or that rut that you are like, I don't have fresh, I don't have new content, I don't have anything? Do you experience that? And if you do, how do you go about pivoting, and coming up with new materials so that you can refresh the content that you're delivering?
Yeah, so I do have a creative need, let's say. Like I get bored if I'm not inventing things. So
Mhm.
when I first started out coaching, I was working with a different system. One of the biggest systems that were there. It was the best one. I'm like, this is the one I've just got to do. But I very quickly got bored because it was created 20 years ago and had a very specific sandbox of tools that you could use. And I was like, that's, it's not up to date. I want to be able to like tweak things, and I want to be able to adapt it to my client. And they actually forbid you, like, you cannot tweak it, it's got to be exactly this. And I was like, okay, this is not serving the client, it's not serving me. And that's why I ended up creating my own system, saying, no, I want something that's more up to date, that I can curate, that I can tweak, because of that need for sort of like creatively thinking about stuff. And so without creativity, I get kind of bored. And so there is always an opportunity to think creatively, but within a framework. So it's kind of a restricted creativity that it all has to still fit together. So it's kind of like this mix between almost a math puzzle combined with creativity, where you're like, I want to introduce something, but it all still has to, like, it can't be just this wacky new creative idea. Like it has to fit in with everything else that's been taught, so that their whole system holds together. So when
Mm,
I teach branding, it has to hold together with culture. When I teach, even from performance reviews, have to fit back together to their quarterly objectives. Like every little piece of the business, it all has to hold up with each other. And then when I want to layer in extra creativity, it's thinking about, how do I present it? Like, is there an analogy? Is there a story? Is there something that I can bring from the outside to connect some dots that otherwise might not have let them see it that way?
mm, mm. Um, because you've seen so many businesses and types and people that run them and you name it, this is a bit of a sidebar question, but looking at your exposure to different types, is there a, I guess, certain commonality between them that you can pinpoint for the ones that are on a good trajectory to success, the ones that can see steady growth because of? Is there a theme amongst the various different types of businesses, or is that too hard to pinpoint?
No, there's lots of patterns, but are we talking about the entrepreneur or about the
Yeah, because you
business
said that you only
entity?
work with founder-led companies. Is that
Yeah, founder,
right?
which is different than somebody that might succeed in a well-structured international corporate enterprise, where it's more managerial competency and leadership skills, and
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of skills that you need, but there's a specific sauce that a founder has. It's a kind of courage, an optimistic courage, where they're not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to try something new. And they're actually driven by this, like they see this need and they want to fix a problem. And so much so that they're ready to like do hard things, work long hours sometimes to like solve a problem for the consumer. Like it really drives them. It's this kind of innate courage. Then in order to succeed with that, they have to be open to listen and learn. Like if they're just like this, they're going to have that doggedness to succeed for a bit, but eventually they kind of hit a wall and they can't get through it. But as long as they have that doggedness combined with like a genuine humility to listen to others, bring in other team members and accept that they might be better at something than they are, surround themselves with people that are actually better than them, then they're going to change the world. People that insist on being the smartest person in the room, eventually they hit their plateau, because they can only go so far as an individual. They need to actually have the humility to say, like, there's somebody better in HR than me, or there's somebody better in finance than me, or there's a better salesperson than me, and to bring those people into their team while they
Mm-hmm.
listen to like best practices, but still have the courage to make the decision and to take the lead, not to just, say, okay, I've got smart people, do your thing. It's like, no, I'm still, like, as a founder, the founder mode of, like, I'm still
Yeah.
going to get in there. I'm going to, kick the tires and ask questions and hold people accountable,
And not be too
but
far
with the
out of
humility.
touch, I would say,
Right.
if
Yeah.
I'm not too mistaken, like there has to be this, you have to be still in tune with what's happening internally, but also very aware of what's
Yeah.
happening in the outside world as well. It's a
Yeah.
balancing act.
And then I would say the number one thing, like, if there's one simple thing that separates the people that succeed from the people that don't, it's focus. And so there's a lot of brilliant people that have all of the skills required, all of the best attributes. They have one thing that's not good, and this happens a lot with entrepreneurs, is they're so excited by the next shiny thing that they keep changing strategies, they keep changing directions. Their team can't keep up, and they never become amazing at one thing. They're just like always good enough at a lot of things because they kind of get bored with themselves. So they keep changing marketing strategies and tactics and plans and products and consumers and you name it. They see the competition doing something, they get excited by that, they copy them. So those people that are not able to stay focused on like something that they can be the best at, they with all of their brilliance end up running themselves and their team into the ground. So you
Yeah.
need to focus, you need to pick
I
your
wonder if
thing and
that's an
stay
interesting
true to it.
I wonder if there's an interesting parallel between that and I guess my personal recent experience is really strategizing my advertising campaigns. And so like if you have an ad that you want to run, say, you've got to
Yeah.
narrow down, pinpoint so that it's very effective if you have, say, limited budget, exactly who the ideal person, company, whatever it is that you're wanting to target, nail it down to they almost have a name and an age and a
Mm-hmm.
look so that you can really just understand and focus in on what your ad is going to speak to. Because I think, and I've experienced it myself early on, when you say, run an ad and you try to target everything because you're just like, I just want to blanket the whole region of Western Canada, say, or Eastern Canada. Well, you're going to miss so much there because you've just overgeneralized. And I think that there's so much to say about targeting and focusing and just playing it out. So run an ad for 7 days just on that specific, or 21 days, whatever it is, that specific person that you can clearly see in your mind, and see if it's working. And then if it's working, then you can start to, add, or maybe do a whole nother separate campaign. And that, I don't know if there's a parallel there, but I think when it comes to building out business models, you've got to find one thing that you can act on and see play out and hold steady before you go pull the
Yeah.
plug, that's not working, pivot, because it could
Right.
have been 1 more month, 2 more months playing out
Right.
that strategy, but you decided to pull a little early and you'll never know, but you could have been like right there. You know what I mean? And I think that that is the name of the
Yeah.
game. I think that that is,
It is.
the difference between, kind of like what you were saying, the difference between failure and success is your focus, your ability to just like raw dog
Yeah.
it for a little bit and just
And
and
you can make
believe in the
mistakes,
model
but
that you
you're going to get
created.
better and better and better. Yeah. And so separating between strategy and execution is one that people get wrong. Like they keep changing strategy. And so an analogy that I use is, if you want to lose weight, let's say, and so you come up with a diet plan and an exercise plan, you're going to eat, let's say, 2,500 calories a day, you're going to exercise 3 times a week. And so then that's your strategy. And so where they make the mistake is they might measure, they're saying, okay, if I do this, I'm going to lose 10 pounds by the end of the year. And so then they're like, okay, that's our strategy. So we have to have some metrics and we have to have a way of measuring it. And what they measure is, okay, you're going to stand on the scale every month. And so this would be the equivalent of, they have a strategy and they're going to check their sales every month. So they step on the scale and they see that it's not working after a month or two. So they're like, okay, instead of this strategy, let's try keto or intermittent fasting or hot yoga. They keep changing. And the reality was, they shouldn't have been checking the scale. They should have been checking in once a week to say, did you exercise 3 times this week? Did you eat your 25? Because most often it's the execution that's not happening. The strategy any of those strategies, keto or intermittent fasting or whatever, they're all going to work. But it's because you keep switching and you're not actually checking if you're executing on any of those strategies. So you think that the strategy is not working, but 9 times out of 10, it's the execution that's not happening. So if you spend your weekly metrics, instead of checking, get on the scale, don't bother getting on the scale. Just tell me, did you exercise 3 times this week? And then down the road, step on the scale and you'll know whether or not they were telling the truth when they said they were exercising, but help them exercise. That way, if, during the week they say, no, I didn't get it done. So for, 1 week, 2 weeks in a row, I haven't been able to keep my exercise plan. Then as a team, you're like, okay, what's getting in your way? How can we help you get back on track with your exercise plan? So the same thing could be, did you speak to 3 sales prospects today or whatever they're tracking? Instead of just tracking the actual lagging measure of how many sales came in, track are they able to execute on the strategy? Because otherwise you're going to change the strategy and there was no problem with the strategy. The problem was you're not, something's getting in the way of them being able to execute on that strategy. And because most companies don't measure that execution piece, they quickly change strategy because they think that's the piece that must be broken. But I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, it's an execution issue, not a strategy issue.
Mm. It's a perfect time to segue into the last chunk of some of the more loftier questions, I guess, and personal questions, because I think that listeners like the human side of the people that succeed in their careers. They like to be able to relate. I maybe, and that's me personally. I really enjoy when a successful human being in terms of their profession can break things down and be realistic and share some of the personal journeys that they've had. So I really like to push and dig a little bit on comfort zones. And if you have any thoughts on the importance of pushing kind of your boundaries, whether it be physically or in your educational pursuits or professional business pursuits, and the value in it. If I may ask if there is one that's off the top of your head, because I know that it's just been asked laid on you, but if there's a specific story where you've kind of gone through, whether it be an on the spot situation that made you very uncomfortable, but you came out the other end kind of a little bit more clear minded and stronger because of. I like to hear those stories. If I can just turn, I guess, the mic over to you to talk about comfort zones and if you have any personal experience and how you kind of push your own comfort zone.
Sure. So my first major part of my career was at L'Oreal, and that was their main thing, was to deliberately push you out of your comfort zone. So every year, at the end of the year, you had to either move up or move out. There was nobody that had the same job year after year after year. And so I had a team of people and I would have to meet with HR and we'd go through them one at a time. And the question was up or out. It was no, this person is just going to kind of do their job year after year, because their point was, this is a place where if you're competent, there's something new and bigger you can do year after year, so that eventually they can send you to another country and then you can be leading the L'Oreal brands in that country. You only have so many years to kind of get fully equipped to be able to take over your country manager for all of the brands. And so their point was, if you have somebody that's moving at a slow pace, they're blocking the potential for another candidate that can come through those ranks quickly. So if they were not moving quick, they were blocking the space and they just weren't a great fit, because they were going to be surrounded by people that would get promoted faster than them and move on faster than them. And then you create resentment. So it's kind of like everybody starts, and at the end of the year, you're going to get a new mandate and next and next. So it was a kind of very high growth mindset where it's either they're gone, and there was a lot of people that kind of didn't make the cut, or they're going to get promoted. And as it turned out, actually, if you weren't pushed out, if everybody got promoted but you're kind of like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. So you would kind of self-select and you'd be gone. So for a while at least, and I was there for many years, but there was probably about an 8 or 10 year period where it was very intense. Kind of, we got to get the talent really promoted quickly. So we were deliberately putting people always in a stretch assignment. Every year was okay, now you're going to manage a team, and now you're going to manage the agencies, and now you're going to manage a huge budget, and now we're going to send you to another country. And it was a very kind of keep you out of your comfort zone mindset. And so it kind of stuck with me everywhere that I went. And I ended up in pharma at one point for a few years, and it was a very safe environment, very risk adverse by design, right? They sit on a patent, and as long as they have that patent and they don't want to make mistakes, they could suddenly find themselves out of in some kind of a problem. And so they were by design much more risk adverse, and it just didn't feel right. Like I was like, this is not my kind of, like, I'm used to a much more appetite for risk, and always be a little bit uncomfortable. And so when I left pharma, it was I actually went back to beauty, to Coty, where their tagline was faster, further, freer. It was like, no, okay, back to this, like, let's push ourselves. And so I've since starting work always been appreciating the growth that comes from being outside of your comfort zone. And it's very easy to let comfort sit in, and people don't realize to what extent it hurts them. And so one clear example for me is, obviously during COVID, everybody's working from home. They got comfortable, meaning they could work in their pajamas. They didn't have to travel. Like, it was really there was a lot of bad parts to COVID, but from a work perspective, people were like, oh, I could get used to this. Suddenly we're asking them to go back to the office, and people are pushing back big time. And they don't realize, especially young people that are trying to learn, how much not going to the office, being surrounded by other people, even the water cooler chat, the exposure that they're getting, how much beneficial that is for their career, and then for, mentally as well, just like the stimulus of, like, being in public. And so when they shelter themselves for the comfort of, I don't want to have to sit in traffic, and I don't want to have to whatever else they have to do in order to go to the office, it's comfortable, but they're seriously holding themselves back from opportunities for learning, opportunities for exposure, opportunities to actually to share their knowledge with other people. And you see lots of examples of that, where comfort is comfort's a killer. Like, it really gets in the way of progress, and there's no growth that really happens. You have to feel safe, but you have to feel challenged. Like, you have to feel the pain in order to grow. So definitely a believer in getting out of the comfort zone. And all of the clients that I work with, they have to be high growth. Like, if anybody is trying to just keep pace with the market, it's like, you're not playing the game. Your retailers are expecting to have brands that are going to be driving growth for them. Consumers want the brand that is going to be providing, like, more innovation than the next guy. If you're just there to, like, coast, it's not fun for anybody, including the employees. Because when you don't grow as a company, there's no new opportunities emerging for employees. You're all just kind of like dialing it in. And so by design, all of the clients that I work with, it's like, how fast can we grow? And then they pick a number. I don't know if it's 10% or 50% or double every year. Pick the number. Let's build a plan to do that, and then we make it happen. But it can't be zero. It can't be 2% with inflation. It has to be
Steady.
it
Yeah,
has
I
to
like
be
comfort. Yeah.
yeah, you got to
And
get out of the comfort zone. And then on
yeah.
an individual basis, it's like, when somebody becomes great at something, like, give them a little more. Like, they got to be learning. So
That is
there's
actually something that maybe I could ask you to touch on too, is like, how do you know when to scale up, when to scale back, when to ride it out, when a goal is achievable versus like a pipe dream kind of thing. Is there techniques or strategies that you use, maybe just on a personal level yourself, and not even talking about what you recommend to businesses, or maybe it is, but how somebody might know, like, okay, here's the one goal or two goals or whatever it is. I'm going to ride it out for X, and then once you achieve it, you then set a new one? Or are you allowed to pivot because you realize that the goal isn't the actual goal you wanted it to be? Like, how do you create goals, and do you have any techniques, advice for that?
Yeah. So in terms of, like, do you wait till you reach it to change it? So normally when we do, like, we call it the 10-3-1 Q. So you have your 10-year big, hairy, audacious goal, 70% achievable, kind of your dream. We say 10 years, it could be 20 years, but very far down the road, just kind of one sentence, what's the dream? Then we bring it down to the 3-year time frame, and there we try to be pretty precise. Like, what exactly, are we going to be twice as big 3 years from now? Are we going to be 50% bigger? Like, what exactly is that dream? And then we make sure that we build it out. Okay, so does that mean you have twice as many people? Does that mean that you're going to have another office? Does that, like, we don't just put a dream out there that can't hold water. So we really, like, beef out that 3-year dream. And then, okay, so in the very next year, what do we have to do in order to achieve that 3 years from now? So it's not sort of totally fictitious. It's like, we need to have a real plan in order to get there, and ground it in reality. So did we ever do this before? Like, what's the growth rate we have now? What would have to be different? So really making sure that it makes sense. When the year is over, the 3-year plan gets updated. Like, you add a new year to it. So we don't have this 3-year plan and keep marching towards it. The 3 years we're always thinking through. So add one more
Right.
year. So, you eat up a year, add another. So you always have a 3 years from now vision versus kind of getting to that 3 year destination. So it's because
I see.
it's about making sure we all have clarity about like the 3 year horizon. And if we all get to it and we're like, okay, now what? Well, it's too late. We need a new
Too
3 year
late.
horizon.
For
Because it's in
sure.
that 3 year horizon, you need to know, like, do we need new products? Do we need a new manufacturing facility? Do we have the right talent? Like, what do we need for that 3 year dream? You always need to have a very clear 3 year dream. You can't wait till you achieve it and then say, okay, now what? Like, because you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
maybe not have the right people, not have the right resources, and so that moves along with it. But it's always grounded in reality, but optimistic, and so it can't be like an impossible dream. That we have to be able to prove that, yeah, this is possible. What would have to be true for it to be possible? No problem with optimism, but not like things that don't make sense. And so that's where
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
pretty good at challenging the teams, like to make sure that if they've picked a number, then I'm like, okay, tell me, what does that mean? So you have to double the number of sales you're currently making. How are you going to do that? Like, and there's lots of answers. It's going to call on more doors. You're going to have more sales reps. You're going to whatever, but there has to be something that supports the whatever goal or dream that they have. And then
Yeah.
once the 1 year is down, it's like, okay, this quarter, what are you going to do this quarter? Otherwise, it's just a dream. It's just a goal, but there's no actual action that matches it. And then once the quarter is done, it's every week we check in on, are we doing what we said we would do this quarter?
I think
And
it's
so
that
back
right
to the
there,
exercise
right? For
examples. If you,
Yeah, for goal
yeah.
setting and achieving, I think it's that right there. It's building the habit, the consistency, and the focus, like we talked on earlier, to see it through. Because your
Mm-hmm.
goals are achievable when you build out the plan, you build out the model, and you see that it's possible. But it's that factor of whether you're going to make the commitment to yourself, that contract that you make with yourself, to do the weekly, the daily tasks, the minute daily things that will over time add up to then attain that lofty 3 year goal that you are after. But it's, I think, and
Yeah.
obviously external things come into play and you need to shift along the way. But I think my father always says, and I really, really like the visual. I'm a very visual person. He says, like out in the Arctic, if it was a blizzard and like middle of the night, but you've got to keep moving, you've got to keep trekking to the next station, the next camp, whatever it is. They usually have like a rope or something like that that they can kind of just keep a grip on to make sure they're on that path towards whatever it is. And so it's like
Mm.
to see through that storm, that like dark whatever it is, that you are so questioning everything and no one has your back and it's just you, whatever it is, and things are like hitting you personally and on a professional level, and it just feels like it's also encompassing. To just have one thing that can anchor you, that you can walk on that path that you set
Yeah.
up, a year ago, a month ago, whatever it was. Believe in it because the strategy was built out. And so I think that it is just a key element to it is commitment to yourself, commitment to the plan to achieve the goals. And I think it's hard to say if you've always been somebody that has kind of like set a goal and flaked a little bit, so you haven't yet had a taste for what success can look like or what achieving a goal could feel like.
Right.
But I think the wins that you can create are the daily ones. So set a goal that's achievable, that's it has your appetite considered, you know what I mean? And then build on that momentum will
Yeah.
start to build. I think that that's really important. Um
Yeah. And it starts with identity. Like, you have to, first step is tell yourself you're the kind of person that does that. And then when you own it and you have that habit in front of you, let's say, when the alarm goes off in the morning and you have the two voices in your head, one that says, oh, it's so comfortable, just stay in bed. And you've got the other voice that says, no, get out. The voice that's saying get out has to be your voice. Like, you have
yeah.
to identify with that one and see the other one as the imposter. Because the moment you think that, oh, that's the nagging voice that's making me get out of bed, like, you haven't assumed that identity. And so that's the same with any kind of habit. If you attach yourself to the person who doesn't do the good behavior, then it's always a battle. Whereas, you have to say, no, I am the kind of person that gets out of bed when my alarm goes off. That's the imposter. Put that voice out of my head. Then you can kind of like step into your identity
Yeah.
on a daily basis. It's
And
when
I
you have
think the
that
other
kind of inner
thing,
struggle of, oh, I don't feel like doing it.
yeah, I think the other thing that's interesting and that I personally battle with is The feeling that you almost feel like an alien or that you're alienated when you dream big, believe in lofty things, put yourself in rooms or situations where it might feel a little overwhelming or out of your reach, out of your scope, and you start to question why the heck you're there, and if you know that what's that term I'm looking for?
Imposter
Imposter syndrome
syndrome.
starts to kick in. Exactly that. I think that the other key thing, at least in my experience, is having the ability to not even let that imposter narrative get inside and don't let it have a voice, because it's natural. It happens to everyone. Once that volume starts to kick up, that is, I think, the first step towards that kind of crushing self, like, depleting feeling of I'm not supposed to be in this room. Well, you're already in the room, so you might as well just finish the meeting, finish the project, do whatever it was that you said, like you're
Yeah,
already there. And I think that
yeah,
it's the having the ability to just like self check that voice that's saying, what have you done, like this is now, this one's too big, kind of thing. And so be able to quiet that down is
yeah.
also a skill. I don't know if I'll ever graduate from not having to do that, but it's always
Well,
there.
the easiest way is to not think about yourself, but think about like who are you serving. So, like as a business coach, if I start thinking, okay, who am I? Like sort of doubting, am I bringing value? But if I think of the difference between an entrepreneur that's successful, everybody wants to work for them, everybody wants to buy for them, they've got lots of money, their family life is great, versus an entrepreneur who's struggling, they're finding it hard, they don't have money, they have to lay off people, their wife wants to leave them. Like what? Like there's a big divide between equally smart people, some getting it right, some getting it wrong. And if I just get out of my own head and say, wait a second, like they need your help, like just go get, even if it's for free, give them their help. If they want to pay you, great, and they
Mm.
will, but don't think about your sort of self and just think like, who am I serving? And I find that's the easiest way for most companies as
Wow.
well. Like the more they remind themselves of who are they making their products for, like everything else is just kind of like, that's your problem, yes, but like stay focused on, you're trying to make a great product for your consumer that you have a passion for, and then they can kind of compartmentalize all of the noise and realize it's not so much about them. It's more like there's a higher purpose. And that's why working with teams to help them figure out their why and all of that, it seems silly, but it's so profound, because in these moments of like self-doubt and everything, it's like, hey, forget that. Let's just like, we want to do this for the person that we're creating products for.
And
And,
that's us as a
but the same
human.
is
That's
true on
us
an
as a
individual level.
and that's exactly that, right? That's in a business sense, but also in just being humans as well. We are built to
Yeah.
be that social community animal. So if you ever do kind of have yourself in those ruts of like questioning your abilities, just being able to find, if it's just for a day, how you're going to serve somebody else that day, you'll see that like that already there's some
Exactly.
motivation that kicks up inside of you that kind of just like gets your gears going back
Yeah.
again, and you can see right past that imposter syndrome, like you're saying, because I can see it vividly in my mind so many times where that imposter syndrome kicks in. But to be able to just like attach
Yeah.
whatever energy I have to something else, man, I think that's a powerful tool that so many people could use
Yeah.
on a daily basis. Okay, I want to pivot now, kind of segue into some more slightly sidebar questions. And I want to
Perfect.
kick off with I guess habits. Maybe if you were to have unique habits or daily practices that maybe they're common, but I like to listen to the ones that are a little uncommon, that you want to share or would recommend to somebody. Do you have any of those?
Well, first of all, read Atomic Habits. That's the step number one. If you want to have good habits, and I read it every single year, because it's, I find, the best written book on the subject. Some great hacks and great kind of philosophy overall. Personally, I have the Daily Stoic every single day. I start with I read something from Stoicism and I journal about it, so it kind of gets me in the right frame of mind. In terms of productivity habits, it's definitely like kind of win the day, win the week, win the quarter. So I always say, what do I want to get done this quarter? What does that mean for the week? And then every day checking in at the beginning, I know what I want to do, and at the end of the day, I kind of conclude, did I get these things done?
Mm.
So definitely that kind of quarter, week, daily routines. And then I use all of the best stuff from Atomic Habits, like stacking habits, making sure that, if there's something that I enjoy doing. So for example, I love coffee. So I only get to have my coffee when I sit down at my computer and I start working. And so I kind of attach the routine that I like with the routine that I know I need to do. I make things that I don't want to do harder. And I put them out of reach and make them more difficult. So try to be clear and intentional about, and I'm a big believer in it's the habits that are, goals are interesting, but it's more not only having habits that allow you to achieve those goals, learning to love the habits. Like, don't worry so much about the destination. Like, enjoy the journey, like enjoy the work, enjoy all of the pieces of it. Because sometimes we get so focused on the goal, we forget that it's actually like, you got to like the stuff.
The
And so
99% of the time.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it like learn to enjoy those pieces of those habits. But it's the habits that are more important than the goals, and they have to connect. So back to that example with the exercising, like losing 10 pounds is great, but like, are you working out and are you
For
enjoying the
sure.
workout? And
For sure.
yeah, so bringing it back to the daily.
I want to ask you, because you already brought it up. So I like to ask top 3 books, but some people are like, I'm not really a book reader. So if there's a top 3 kind of resources that you would recommend to somebody, then what would those be?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of stoicism, any of the books on stoicism from Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way is a great one. Business wise, I would say Jim Collins, The Good to Great is probably, Good to Great is probably the best business book. What else is there that I would recommend as a top read? Let me look back.
So is there any nonfiction or fiction, I guess, novels that you read? Or are you more like, I like to read books that I can apply to my career, to my daily life?
I've enjoyed some fiction, but nothing that's been earth shattering or life changing for me. I'm much more of a kind of, let's say, business books
Yeah.
or philosophy kind of book person for sure. And more podcast format. So
What
or
podcasts are
audio
you listening
format. So
to?
either listening to the book or for current affairs, All In. A lot of U.S.
Yes.
politics, but I don't know if you ever listened to that one. It's probably I love listening, just good, smart group of guys, way smarter than I could ever dream of being, that are so connected and make sense of the world. So that one's really good. Modern Wisdom, I like a lot. Those would probably be my 2 favorites, but a ton of other ones as well.
Yeah, that's funny. I right there with you with both of those. I also really enjoy Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you ever listen to Tim Ferriss.
I do. He was my favorite podcaster for the longest time. Recently, not so much. Like, I find he's lost his way a little bit. So, I loved him for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And I would say in the last 3 years, it's kind of hit or miss with him. So it's not always great. I like Lex Fridman. I don't know if you ever listened to him. It's more
Yeah.
on the tech side. What Now with Trevor Noah. I'm just looking through my iPhone.
Do you have Philosophize
Yeah.
This?
Philosophize This?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I would
That's my
probably love
gift to
that.
you.
I appreciate that. It's a great gift. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Who
Who,
is
who,
he?
who?
Oh geez, his name's slipping my mind. I'll send it to you. He's been at it for a while.
That's all right.
Actually,
I'm going to look it up. And
you know how I think I came across him? It was either from, could have been a Tim Ferriss episode that he was interviewing, but his story of how he started and got into
okay.
podcasting was so inspiring to me. He was I think a warehouse clerk for quite a while and did full on
Okay.
podcasting on the weekend, but like not even just on the weekends, like at nighttime, because it's just him talking about ancient philosophers, and it just blew up. Like, but he stayed committed for a couple years, and
Wow.
yeah, it's really cool. I really like it anyways. So listen to that one. Okay,
I'm sure I'm going to love
transitioning
it.
to, what did I have here? Yeah, I really, because I think we can get so hungry for success, if you will, and entrepreneurs and high achievers and go-getters, which I mean, I have a podcast called Leave Average for Joe, so I'm one that fully loves that personality trait and mindset. However, I do think that having the ability to define what success looks like for you is really important, and being able to differentiate between what your version of success is personally versus somebody else's is crucial, because we have mentors and role models in our lives and people that influence us that we want to mimic and we want to be. But I think what troubles us sometimes is we don't understand that their version of success is different than ours. And so the long of the short, or the short of the long, is I'm curious to know what success looks like for you, and do you often stop to reflect on how your, I guess, not even goals, but how your current lifestyle is aligned with what your success looks like?
I do. And for me, it's kind of back to the theme of the journey versus the destination. And it's just like, I just want to love what I do. Like, I want to be now doing something that on a daily basis, I'm excited to do whatever's in front of me. So if I have a client that I'm doing a full day session for, like the days that I have coaching, and it's not every single day, I'm way more excited than the days that I don't. Like, I know I love it because I can't wait to be in the room with them, hear what they did since the last quarter, because we were together like 90 days ago and we had all of these sort of dreams mapped out, and I can't wait to get back in the room and hear, did they achieve it? And ideally there's a few pain points that I'm going to help them get through, and that they're going to leave the end of the day pumped and ready for the next quarter, and their energy is going to be contagious. I'm going to be proud of myself. I'm going to be excited to be part of it. And so that's all I want, like on a daily basis, to be able to do work that I would be more happy doing than not doing. Some of my friends are starting to retire, and I'm like, why? Like, what am I going to do? Like, leaf blow my driveway? Like, I want to be in the room, having the conversations, contributing. And so that's my only goal, is like on a daily basis to keep doing what I love and pivot as needed to be sure that I still love it. And if, I get bored of something or I want to dream bigger, then lean into the dream. There's no destination for me at this point. It's more just like on the daily. And so that's my obsession, is like, am I making a life, the right kind of clients that I'm happy to spend time with? Podcasts, because I love chatting about business and about things like this. I just learned philosophize this. Like, this is what I want to do. And so it's basically, my goal is to set my life up in a way that two things: I can love what I'm doing and I have the freedom to modulate it based on what I'm capable of. So if I run time or I have to put my energy elsewhere, I'm not stuck to some corporate gig where it's like, can't wait for this to be over kind of feeling. It's not that at all. Like, I'm at my own free pace, and the fact that I'm able to kind of help or inspire others, whether it's other coaches that I work with or clients, that's all I want. Like, I feel good. And
I
then
love
the
that.
money, it comes in, but that's secondary. Like, I don't need, I would still do it even if there was no money, because I kind of enjoy it. So the fact that I get paid to do it is at this stage a blessing. Super
What's
Bowl.
your favorite pastime, if I can?
Sorry, I didn't hear, but I think I read your lips and you said your favorite pastime.
Yeah.
I still love to get exercise and to play things. I'm not one to like strap on shoes and go jogging. I have to kind of have a game or some kind of thing. So I play hockey a few times a week, pickleball with a group of friends, same group that we've been playing forever. We play, now we used to play squash. Now it's pickleball. And then we have a beer and play bocce until like 11 o'clock at night, every Wednesday night. Those kinds of pastimes. And then I have 4 boys. So 2 of them live at home and 2 of them have moved out, but we're together often. And so my pastime is family time, having some laughs with friends, playing a bit of hockey and a bit of sports, and then snowboarding, mountain biking, those kinds of individual sports as well. And that's it. That's
Wicked.
aside from listening to podcasts and walking my dog and talking to ChatGPT.
Fortunately, the connection was subpar at the end of this episode, so I reached out to Ron to finish off the episode. And my last question was, if you had one personality trait you could gift to the world, what would it be? Ron's answer: I wish people would instinctively replace judgment with curiosity. When they find themselves at odds with someone, their first reflex would be to wonder why, to lean in with genuine curiosity and seek to understand the other person's perspective and how they came to have it, and let constructive, eye-opening conversations ensue. Man, I feel like that is a common theme. I know that is my response to this question, for more people to have curiosity. But the more and more I interview people, the more I start to realize how similar like-minded individuals are. It always blows me away. Anyways, Ron, thank you so much for coming on to the show. I really enjoyed this chat, and I know listeners will as well. That's a wrap on another episode of Leave Average for Joe. My friends, please connect with me. Send me an email, admin@briggsandco.ca. If you know of anyone that you want me to bring on the show, send them my way, please. I love, love, love getting some recos. If you want to follow on the social media, Leave Average for Joe, Briggs & Co. Dance Consulting, Last Shot Apparel, a little bit of a plug there for the company. Regardless, whatever you so choose to do, please always pursue your days with love and genuine curiosity for the world and the people in it. I am so passionate for learning, and the only way that I can grow the show is if you, the listeners, share the show with friends, with family. Check out briggsandco.ca. Subscribe to the Friday Minute newsletter. It's 4 topics, super fast, super insightful: philosophy, business, fitness slash wellness, and then art slash entertainment. It's a great way for you to leap into your weekend with 4 new insights that you can share with your friends and family. Anyways, take care of yourselves, squeeze your loved ones extra tight. Ciao for now.